Welcome everyone. Today we are excited here to talk something very, very important. Many times we don't emphasize on the issue of financial education. And guess what? We have our experts here. Dr. Veronica is also Tanzanian. Welcome, Dr. V.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ernest. Thank you.
Yeah, so today we decided to create this webinar. We are going to discuss so many things, and all of these kind of things are related to the bigger title of American Dream, but you want to decode the American Dream. Millions of people around the world, they are working so hard to travel from one country to another, and especially coming to America, believing that coming to America is going to change their life. But that might not be the case, because sometimes we know after being here for quite some time, you might have worse life compared to the life before you came to the United States. So we don't want to have people coming here, then they come to have regret or have a lot of problems. So we want it from the beginning, or even whatever the stage you are, to be in understanding of everything, especially for immigrants.
Okay.
How long have you, first of all, introduce yourself before I start asking questions? It will be asking to be more discussion today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ernest. First of all, thank you for having me on this amazing program. But my name is Dr. Veronica Njuaba. I am a licensed financial professional. I live in the United States. I actually live in Long Island, New York. And I've been in America for about 15 years now. And I've been in financial services almost 4 years full time. And It's interesting because when I have to do a full introduction, we realize that my background is actually not in financial services. And then I moved to financial services. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And you already said I'm originally from Tanzania, so I am an immigrant as well here to the United States.
That's very, very good. Okay, let me go directly straight. You came here, for those who do not know, through education,
Yes.
right? But when you came through education, at what point you knew, like, the so-called American dream has to have a strategy to be able to be attained? On
Mm,
your case, before I talk on my case.
yes. So for me, I think when I came here, actually, I came to college, right? So
Yeah.
I went to college. That's why I came here. So straight from Tanzania, I came because of college. But I remember we went to a store the same night. As soon as I landed at the airport, I didn't have no bed sheets or anything. So the lady that accepted me here or took me from the airport, she was kind enough to take me to Walmart to grab some bed sheets. She's like, "Hey, you need something. So you need some bed sheets, some covers and stuff like." Because I didn't even know what I needed, so I didn't even grab any of those. But anyways, but I was surprised the bed sheets had a different price on the aisle. And then when I went to the counter, it had a totally different price. So I don't remember. I think it was like almost $20. But when I went there, it was like 20 something dollars. I was like, okay,
Yes.
they said $20. Why did they increase? And the lady was like, oh, it's taxes. I was like, okay. So why do you have to put taxes on the bed sheet? And they're like, well, everything you buy, you have to pay tax on it. So I was like, okay. So at first I was like, okay, gotta pay tax on it. And then then another time when I had an opportunity to go to Walmart, it was by myself. And then I remember I had only $100. So I was like, I'm gonna do shopping for the entire month and blah blah blah. This was like 15 years ago, okay? So I'm here shopping thinking I'm only gonna spend $50. But when I reached the counter, they told me no, it's not $50. It's like 61 something. I was like, okay, hold on. That was not
My
Oh,
plan.
that was not the budget. So I was so confused. Like, what is this taxes? Then I started asking, do Tanzania have taxes? They're like, yeah, Tanzania has taxes. I said, okay, I've never seen. So yeah, it's included in there. So I was like, oh my God, that was so ignorant. And then another thing that I noticed as I kept staying here is I saw more older people working. So that scared me a little bit. I remember
Yeah.
Mom, as soon as I graduate, I'm coming back home. I said, people work here when they're very old. I see people in their 70s, in their 80s. I remember people were like doing housekeeping and stuff like that at school. And I was so scared. I was like, I don't want to be working when I'm so old, you know? And my mom was like, no, it's okay. You'll be okay. Just focus on school, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it was a mental thing from the time I got here, Ernest. I just knew there was something that I did not want to experience, especially like what? The now the taxes part was very confusing. And then also seeing older people working, you know, even when I started my career, at that time I used to work as a nurse when I graduated. And I also saw older nurses working. Or somebody says, oh, I've retired. So we do a party, we celebrate them, we start following them on Facebook. Ernest, 5 months later, this person is in a different department. They say, oh yeah, I graduated from the ER, but I work in the cath lab. So I was like, so what is, I mean, sorry, I retired from the ER, now I work in the cath lab. So I'm asking myself, what do you mean you retired from the ER and you work in the cath lab? I thought retirement means you're done working, you know? So it was so
Yeah.
confusing because I grew up in Tanzania. My grandfather was already retired. I've always seen him just going around visiting his kids, you know. So when you talk about retirement, that's what I was envisioning, like a person chilling at home, you know, leveraging whatever that they've you know, worked hard for. But yeah, so from the get-go, I knew there was a problem, Ernest. You know, I knew that, okay. And then when I was working as a nurse, I also saw other families, you know, or patients that they were well-to-do, you know. They owned a lot of properties. I remember that we even had, there was a time when I was going to school, we even had like a private job where you go get a job, an assignment, go to someone's house, take care of them, like kind of like a student nurse,
Yeah.
home health type of job. Yeah. And those people were writing us checks, like, you know, cash, you know, and then we'll submit it to the agency, like, oh yeah, they paid me this and blah, blah, blah. But then I was wondering, what did they do? You know, I'm like, okay, I have a 70-year-old who can barely take care of themselves. They're depending on welfare. And I have a 70-year-old who's like well to do and they can walk, they can, I mean, they look so wealthy. I'm like, were they born from wealth? They're like, oh no, you know, I just worked hard. So I was wondering, I was like, there could be something that I don't know. And I was like, God, I know I'm gonna know one day. So my mother encouraged me to really go to school and was like, yo, just get a good job and you know, save and just learn the system. But there was no way of learning the system, Ernest. But anyway, so
Yeah.
long story short, for me, from the day I landed in America, I knew there was a problem. I knew there was something that just did not make sense. Like there
Yeah.
was so it was very obvious for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good. I mean, every time when you come here, we started comparing and we're starting figuring out. And that is something I usually tell people after now, wherever I talk to someone, the advice I give someone I wish myself I knew from the first day I landed in America.
Yeah.
Uh, we came around at the same time. I came here 2008 myself, also through, but it was through scholarship. I didn't pay on my own. So my life kind of was easy, I can simply say, in
Mm,
that particular arena. But two things which didn't make sense. So number one, I I arrived the first I arrived in the US. I went to San Francisco, Bay Area, whatever, Stanford. I was there for 1 week orientation. After
mm,
Stanford University orientation, then you had to go to the school which I was assigned. It was West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia, Marshall University. So there is a big change. Dropping the first week in California, seeing how I mean Stanford and everything, and then 1 week later you move to West Virginia.
mm,
I didn't imagine myself there will be poor Americans,
mm,
because the first thing you usually know you're coming from there, you know, oh, these are rich people. But
mm,
I arrived here, you give someone 25 cents, 30 cents, $1. Thank you so much, sir. It didn't make sense because West Virginia is among the poorest states
mm,
in America. I mean, it, I was walking like sort of sometimes when I go to the store, going somewhere, I need to have like a couple of cents, have $1. I felt good at that time when I handed it to white Americans and they say, thank you, sir. I'm so, oh man, so this is the life. But you say, how comes American can be poor? That is the first question
mm,
I usually have. Like, it doesn't make sense.
mm,
I'm limited to have number of works. I'm limited to have business. I'm limited to have this because you are born here. You speak English like this. If I can be customer service anytime. I can just go and volunteer around the world.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Why there is American who is completely poor? That's the first question.
Mhm.
The second question I had when I arrived here, why these old people? I assumed everyone has a lot of money. I didn't understand the retirement system. But when we talk to some people, where do you work? Healthcare. Healthcare is the biggest industry. Or
Mm.
someone, oh, I work to this old family. At their home, they give me $15 per hour or $10 per hour. But I, then there are those that are going to work at the elderly homes, nursing homes. But if someone stays there for 10 years, 15 years, does the government pay the money to all the people to stay there? They say no. So how these old people they stay there for all
Mhm.
these years? So that is another question. So, oh, this is something different. At the beginning, look, oh, when you go, you get old, you're going to they take you to the retirement home. So I assume it's just that's the government is going to do, but
Yeah.
that is still your money going there. So
True.
that put me some of the questioning. Then we came, okay, so American Dream, number one, is to make sure that everybody we know, like the traditional one, have a job, have a family, have a home, blah, blah, blah. But there are more things in
Mm.
American Dream they are not talked about. So that's why we want today to decode like what is exactly this American Dream. Is American Dream is just work for 65 years, 70 years, then you go chill. Are you able to chill? Or you are going
Mm.
back to work again because you cannot survive even 1 year after retirement. So those are the things like at that beginning, like, okay, they are starting confusing me. What should I be able to do? So when we talk, I started talking to some people. The first thing usually they talk, oh, you have to make sure that you have good credit.
Mhm.
I didn't know right away. The first year, my first credit card was my second year. I've moved the car from West Virginia to California. That's I had my credit card.
Mhm.
And well, when you have credit score, you can get the loan for this one, you can get a good job, you can get this, you can get this. Okay. So this takes to the point like uh as immigrants, first of all majority of Americans, this doesn't matter whether you are born here or not born here,
Yeah.
but majority for immigrants, the first advice you get, the financial advice you get, I don't know whether it's the financial advice, is the credit score. Thinking that
Yeah.
this is the ticket to American Dream.
Mm.
What is your understanding about this credit score, and is it really a gold ticket, first class ticket? If a good credit score means you are going to be good life, American Dream retirement, and have all life you want with a credit card and a good credit score.
Yeah. Well, my understanding, okay, of credit card, my understanding before financial services and now it's a little bit different. Before I used to think that once you have good credit, then that's it. That's all you need to break the code. But then if you really pay attention, right? Yes, having good credit is good if you want to borrow money from the bank, right? Especially if you don't have cash flow. You don't have cash flow. We've never seen you, doing anything with money. We don't know how is your how much we can trust you. Then yeah, we want to see your credit score, you know. Um so I don't have the money, an average middle class, they'll say, you know what, I want to have good credit so that I can buy something I cannot afford. And most times is to impress people who don't even care using the money I don't have, type of thing. So I go there, I'm like, yo, I don't have any money, but I want everybody to see that I can afford this big house. So as long as I have good credit, I'm going to take the money that I know I cannot even pay back in the next year or so. But since I have good credit, I'm going to be put into a system so that I can borrow this money, and it's going to take me 30 years to pay it back. But I never sat down to actually do the math to understand that, hey, if I borrow this money, 300K, okay, 30 years later, I would have paid even close to 700, if not 800K. But I don't have a space to even build that cash flow for myself. And that is the reason why, if you're only going to rely on good credit score to build your financial life in America, you're going to have a gap still. When I talk about gap, I'm talking about the wealth gap. the gap between wealthy people and middle class. There's certain things they do a little bit different, because you cannot be paying a lot of compounding interest back on these credit cards and credit system, and you don't have an account that's compounding for you. That's where the gap is. You see? Now, another thing, Ernest, is this. Did you know that if you have so much cash flow, you can literally, even if you don't have a good credit score, you can still get a loan from the bank? Actually, even cheaper compared to people with big. Because let me
Yeah.
tell you, cash is king. That's another thing that we don't know. So the biggest gap that middle class have today is not even just having good credit, it's actually building cash flow. When you make a lot of money, you get a lot more opportunities out there, including that loan that you want from the bank. Because I will tell you, even if you have a very good credit today, Ernest, you cannot go to the bank and get a credit card of $1 million.
No, you can't.
You can't. So why are they going to give you a house of 500,000 with 10,000 at the bank, but they cannot give you a credit card of 500,000 with 10,000 at the bank? You think banks are silly? You think they're stupid? Banks understand money. You see? So while an average class, middle class, is buried into a mindset of saying, oh, I just need to have good credit and I'm good. So I have a Mercedes Benz parked on my backyard or front yard or whatever. And then I have a house. So you didn't pay for nothing.
Yeah.
Literally, people have credit. Even their cell phone is on credit. I saw this post on Instagram one time and they said, if your shoes are still, if you still have 3 or 4 more payments left on your shoes, don't talk to me. So that means even people buy shoes on
Yeah.
credit. I saw that post and I was like, oh my God, really? 2 shoes? Do you have to buy shoes on credit? There's so many cheap shoes that are still nice, you know?
Yeah.
So I think the understanding of money, or the lack of understanding of money, is actually the major problem we have today. So having a good credit score is good, but having cash flow is even better. Because this idea of, oh, I have good credit, then I've got it made. Oh, my credit score is 800.
Yeah.
My credit score doesn't have to be 800, but let me tell you, if I have good cash and have a bunch of assets, oh, the bank is gonna run for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So having good credit, of course, is a good thing, but I think there is more to just having good credit.
Yes, because for me, credit score is a tool. How do you use it?
True.
And majority of us, we are using that one as the main financial tool, which is not. So you mentioned something about the compounding.
Mm.
Uh, the crazy part is I came to know in a hard way. I when you have good credit, and I went to the military so I can get a house, blah blah blah. So American dream, we know we have to get a house, we have to get whatever, we have good credit. Then I bought the house. Obviously, you are so happy. But after 2 3 days of staying, I set my office here. So I started calculating this amount of money I'm paying is a 30 years loan. How much will I pay?
Mm.
That is when I came to realize that, oh, man, now this is not American dream. In what sense? Uh, the amount of money they are giving me, like, is a loan, but when I finish paying, I paid like 2 3 houses. Like, no, this doesn't make sense. Yes, I want them to get a profit, but why this extremely larger profit they're going to get on me? So now I understand that what is called the American dream, the moment you are going to finish your mortgage, the moment you are going to finish paying your brand new car, the moment you finish all these loans you have, you are almost dead. And the
Yeah.
majority of us are dead while we still owe a lot of these kind of things.
Yeah.
So at that moment, okay, something has to be done.
True.
We need to understand the financial game better than that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes me to another point. Again, as immigrant, the one big way of making money in America, we work through one source of which is working. So
Mm.
when we come here, we compare our life back to home. Oh, how much I was getting? $700, $500 per month,
Mm.
$1,000 per month. But here, if I go to work at a grocery store, I just pack the bananas, I do simple things like that one, I get $12 per hour, I get $15 per hour. You see, oh, now I have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So the only way to get more money is to have another job or
Mm.
to have overtime. But we forget, like, these jobs we work, yes, they are good, they give us money. But we do not know, the more you work those hours, the more we pay more through taxes. We
Mm.
move from one bracket to another bracket. If you make 50,000 per year and you are going to make 110 per year, yes, but it's good. But in the end, Uncle Sam is taking bigger portion too.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we don't go deep dive too much,
Mm-mm.
compare people here. We know, like, some people, they come here, they know how to make some braiding hairs on the side. Some people can be able to cook some African food on the side, or
Mm.
they can be doing some second-hand clothing on the side. Like, how do you need to transform to find something in a business world for tax purposes?
Mm.
Company-wise, business-oriented, yes, it's allowed to be working, but
Mm-hmm.
how do you also find another way? Because if you use it, employment only is the way of growing your money, getting money to growing the money. That means you will be working a lot, and at the age of 60, you will be looking like 75 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does that work on your end? And because sometimes we look to own a company is very simple. In Missouri, it's just $25.
Mm-hmm.
Some states is just $5. Some states, the maximum state maybe 100, 120, like California. But how does that work into, even if we are not going to talk too much about the American tax system, but just like comparing a little bit of work and the people to also as immigrant to find also other source and put those into like actual official ways of getting, like, instead of just, oh, let me get the cash, just give me the cash, I'm doing
Yeah.
your hair. Why can't we put into the proper system and utilize those systems also to benefit from the taxes?
You know, you said very, very well, Ernest. So you said two things, right? So have you heard the saying dead on arrival?
Yeah,
So that's what I mean. Like, I feel like sometimes that's what we do, right? We're financially dead on arrival. It's like we don't even know what's going on. So by the time we wake up, it's like, as you said, we're already close to retirement. And also, slowly through the process, a lot of us die in silence. You said a very, very good point. So taxes is true. When you really study or understand the American tax system, you'll get to understand that the system here is pretty much to favor people who own businesses, right? So there's a lot of gap for people who own businesses compared to people who are just simply employees. I like the fact that you kind of like projected an example. An average middle class can go, maybe have a job and sacrifice maybe 40 hours a week, 80 hours. Some people even work overtime, maybe 60 hours a week. You're exchanging your time for money. But when you look at the tax system, it's not really to favor you, but rather to favor those people who create jobs for people who are supposed to pay taxes. Get the point?
yeah,
Yeah. So yes, I understand there are business taxes as well, but these business taxes usually are based on business profit. So that's where a lot of gap comes in between an average person who just depends on living paycheck to paycheck and paying taxes versus a person who owns a business to pay taxes. Now you gave me a question. You said, all right, let's say somebody has a skill. Okay, they know how to braid hair, they know how to maybe drive a car or whatever. So instead of just working for a taxi company, you know and making and always splitting that cash flow with somebody, how about you create your own company, do the exact same skill under your own company, so that you can make the cash flow and still be able to pay taxes a little bit different. So because when you pay taxes as a business owner, it's a little bit different compared to people who pay taxes as just simply employees, right?
yeah,
So I would say people need to just understand the gap and the difference between the two, right? Another thing, Ernest, that maybe I'm not going to go too deep, but I need to kind of like introduce this subject that a lot of people maybe might not think about it. It's called conditioning. Okay. So everything that we do, Ernest, trust me, is because of our mindset. Think about it. If most of us came from an environment where our parents, our great grandparents, our senior greatest parents, they were, let's say, entrepreneurs, right? Everything they do is geared towards owning a business and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. Naturally, by default, right? You saw everybody in your household, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, owning businesses. Trust me, you will think about owning a business as well. Literally, you could have a perfect skill. You're not going to think like, oh, I know how to braid hair. Oh, I'm going to start my own hair shop. Instead
Yeah.
of, let me see who's going to hire me and give me a few hours at their shop. You see? So
Very
it's a
true.
mindset. So when it comes to cash flow and how we look at cash flow is about mindset. I can go to nursing school and finish nursing school. Instead of me working and saying, oh, let me want an extra hour at someone's agency, I can decide and build my own agency or have my own home health and still, perform the same duties, but it's under my business. So owning a business or not owning a business have everything to do with the understanding of cash flow and how the system works. And of course, going to help you in taxes, right? So let me
Yes.
give you another last example. I could even be a medical doctor. Okay. So high intellectual people, Ernest, you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Most highly educated people, in my observation, are the ones who are lowest in cash flow. Because when you look at the education system, it's very Eurocentric, meaning what? It's created actually just for people who are supposed to be working for other people. Our typical educational system does not even teach us how to own businesses. Somebody goes to business school, graduates with a business degree, and they never learned how to start a business, but they only taught how to run someone else's business. You see? So that is a big gap there. So you're right. Owning a business, right, is an area space where it's going to help you with so much, not only taxes, but also increase, in your cash flow. You can scale if you own a business compared to when you're just depending on somebody else. So I was looking at that person, that was like counting at the warehouse, right? Counting those
Yeah.
luggages and stuff. I'm like, wow, what if they had a business that pretty much just does that? Counting, doing logistics or whatever the job is. So it's the mindset, right? They could create the same exact time through their business to perform the same duties, but because nobody's teaching us as middle class how we should own our own businesses and how we should leverage our businesses to build wealth and reduce taxes and not overpay and stuff like that, then of course there's always going to be a gap.
Yeah. Very, very true.
Yeah.
And I wanted to remind the people who are here that if you live in the United States or in Canada, you can go to the website ebmscholars.com/finance. If you go on that particular page, it will bring you to the website and you'll have the opportunity to fill out the form. It will bring you here on this page. Remember, you must be in the US and you must be in either in Canada to get the free financial education. So you'll get a free consultation for an hour to 2 hours. So you'll fill the form and they'll reach back to you, helping you to understand from your goals about if you are looking for the budgeting, investment portfolios, management, retirement planning, tax planning, debt management, business solutions, and so forth. You'll be able to do that. So just making sure that the website is EBM Scholars /finance, and then you'll be able to get that one. That is a free consultation. We cannot give that consultation if you are out of these countries because you must get a license. I'm licensed, and Dr. V is also licensed to be able to give that type of advice those type of services you are providing. But if you are outside, still this is a good education for you, or you are out of US and Canada, even if you're in Europe, even if you're in Africa, even if you're in Brazil, wherever you are, this will be a good education for you to have. Though in the end, like when you want, like you must have license to provide a certain kind of information, and we are licensed to work in the US and in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing I want for us to discuss is the biggest mistake for immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
This has been the biggest mistakes, and I'm working on it. You saw I am writing a book
Mm.
on this type of mistake. For
Yeah.
me, the mistake is still calling the decoding the American dream, but
Yeah.
he is going to look at what are the missteps immigrants are doing in navigating the financial systems and as well as the retirement system of America. But
Mm-hmm.
the biggest for me is separation we put between immigration and
Mm.
the finance. Which one starts? Which one comes later? Egg or chicken? Chicken or egg? That is the kind of the thing. What I've seen, because I've been in the immigration part so long,
Mm.
and I've been advising people on the immigration, but at the same time, I want people from day one to understand that immigration and finance should go together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of us, we don't think that we have started the life in America until I hold a green card or I became a US citizen.
True.
So that's the biggest mistake. So if you find the average immigrant, if the person doesn't come as green card lottery winner,
Mm.
someone doesn't come here and he maybe is a spouse of a US citizen, majority of people
Mm.
get their green card between 5 to 10 years. Majority of people. So
True.
in those 5 to 10 years, we are not focused on anything. Their financial part is just maybe if you have a credit card. That's the only thing they might know
True.
if they are smart or early how to use credit to have good credit score. That's it. Nobody's thinking about it. What is this type of portfolio for retirement? What is that one? Is there anything called tax fees? Say something. We don't look about that. And even some people that are 10 years, 15 years here, as long as you don't have that card, you are not thinking that, okay, now I can start the life. But once you get that card, oh, now I'm starting the American dream. Now you are starting thinking, let me get the loan for the car, for the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to get more debt.
True.
But we do not want to find what book should I read from the beginning? What things should I enroll? Do I need to have a friend in the services? Do I need to qualify as an international student? Can I
Mm.
start certain things in the financial industry?
Yeah.
Learning something.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you to see? If I ask you which one comes first, or your experience, like at what point, if your personal experience, did you say, okay, now these things should go together right away, not just
Yeah.
like let me wait until I become a citizen, or let me start American dream when I hold a green card?
True.
On
Yeah.
your side, what was your experience?
Yeah, so for me, so I like that question a lot because it is very true what you said, right? Which one comes first? Should I wait until when I'm a legalized or natural, legalized resident or officially a resident with a green card or a citizen before I start building my financial portfolio? Or should I build my financial portfolio while I'm waiting, to be either a green card or retirement. And it's funny because I think it still falls down into mindset, Ernest, because
Yeah,
the same person that is waiting, right, for that green card or for that citizenship before they can build their financial portfolios is exact same person that is collecting a lot of debt at the same time.
yeah,
You see, so that's where the gap is. So before you know, guess what, when the green card comes in or the citizenship comes in, now you have a lot of debt and no assets at all. And your debt is a bad debt because it's maybe compounding against you and not building wealth. So it's about mindset. How about you think the same that, hey, while I'm waiting, let me build wealth so that even if, let's say, worst case scenario, I don't get the green card, I've accumulated so much asset I can sell and move back home. Last time I checked, I don't think America is very fast at having people who have a lot of money leave this country because these will pay a lot in taxes so they can work with you, right? Even when you look at the immigration system, they even have green card by investment. I think that card, I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be that
yes, still
category.
there.
You see, so these are things that we don't think. So if I don't have paperwork today, but I'm smart enough to understand, hey, I can create a business and create jobs for people in America so that we can have more taxpayers, or we can do this and do that. Guess what? Now you're creating wealth not only to yourself, but you're helping other people create cash flow. You're helping and contributing to the economy of the country. Why will America tell you, hey, pack your bags and go? But you're here depending on just social welfare. Because if you really think, Ernest, green card versus even that citizenship, why do people even want American citizenship? What are the benefits? I think that's another topic. Maybe that could contribute to people making decisions when it comes to your finances. People literally wait, oh, I'll wait until when I'm a citizen. Okay, fine. But guess what? Apart from voting, maybe if you want to run for presidents, or you want social help, you want, I don't know, the government to help you, this social welfare and stuff like that. What are other benefits of being a US citizen? If I don't want to be a US president, I don't want to run for anything in the government, or I don't care too much about voting, as an example, then what are other benefits?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So, but if I'm an entrepreneur, I know how to make money. I'm making a lot of money. I understand how the system works and I'm building wealth. Let me tell you, there's a bigger picture to it. So I think lack of education, lack of financial education is what is drowning us as immigrants. And also there's a myth. There's myth and fact. There's a myth that if you don't have paperwork, you cannot own a business in America. That is not
Which is,
true.
yeah.
That is not true. There are different kind of business setup. When you go and register your business, there's some that it's true you have to be a U.S. citizen, and then there's some that they give it open even for immigrants that you can own a business here. You see, so if fellow immigrants could understand how the financial system work and get to empower themselves in that angle, then yeah, it's more than just credit. So instead of accumulating debt and waiting for immigration status to be like changed to green card or whatever, how about you accumulate wealth and still wait at the same time? Does that make sense? So it all narrows down to mindset and our understanding on how the financial system works. So we don't understand, Ernest. That's the problem. The biggest gap here is financial education and also understanding how that works. So my personal experience, let me tell you, my personal experience, because you asked me that question, right? So I'm not going to
Yeah.
forget. When I was going to school, I didn't understand much about finances. I remember that time, of course, I was a student. So I was working as a CNA. I also did have a 401k. The only thing is I did not understand how a 401k worked. I did not understand. That's another problem. So, anyways, I did not understand how it worked, but I had one because they're offering at my job. So I asked my colleague, I said, hey, what is this 401k? Oh, it's for retirement when you retire. I said, okay, I don't know where I'm going to retire. So they said, oh, yeah, you can cash it. That's what they said. Oh, you can cash it out. I said, okay, fine. So we can cash it out. That's fine. Because I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or I was going to leave.
Yeah.
So long story short, because I was still brand new. So I started with a 401k. Of course, I had a credit card. So
You
I
were
did.
set at that moment. Oh, I'm the peak of the
I
financial.
was super excited. Let me tell you, it was a big deal. Okay, it
And
was
they
a
take you
big
as social
deal.
security
Yeah,
every time. So, oh, I have
right.
social security too.
Right. I was actually saving my money, but it was all at the bank, because I did not know where to save my money. A lot of people don't know that instead of just saving money at the bank, Ernest, they can create something almost like a family bank where you can get way more interest. That could be a topic maybe for a different
Yeah.
day. So we throw all our money just sitting there, growing at 0%. We're not beating inflation. 10 years later, the money doesn't have value, but at least I saved though. So that was
Yeah.
my experience back then. All right. So I never thought that, oh, I have to be here 25 years later when things are clear. That's when you start. No, actually, Ernest, believe me or not, our financial habits have everything to do with our mindset and our belief when it comes to it. Has nothing to do with our status. Do you know some people even come to the United States with a green card, but
Yeah.
they don't really advance financially? So if truly getting a green card or getting your US citizenship is going to take you in an upper level financially, then how come those people who already get a green card come here, let's say with lottery, they are still until today living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't even know what is their tomorrow going to be like financially? How come?
Very true.
You see? Yeah. And some people are even lucky to be born here. Let's talk
Yes.
about that. Some people were born here. Okay, they were born as US citizen.
Yeah.
Then how come they are also, some of them, right, still living paycheck to paycheck? They're not even sure of their tomorrow. So I don't think status is the only thing here. I think lack of financial education and the misunderstanding of the how the American financial system work. That's where the gap is.
That's very, very true. and we needed to know these things. I mean, failure to know these kind of things, as you said, you are dead on arrival. We are setting up ourselves to the end, which we know what is going to happen. That is not a good ending. So, what people do? They say, "Oh, now because of this situation, oh, I'm returning. I'm going to Africa." I said, "Why do you need to go back to Africa?"
Yeah.
But it's not that they love their country or continent more. It's because they haven't prepared themselves to fight the retirement lifestyle of America. So they think that if I have the money here, this amount, if I transfer to my country, is more. It can be more, but the reality is not more. Why? If you say I'm retiring after 30 years, 40 years, I'm going to my country, there is no problem. I usually tell people, the moment you arrive in America, think that you are going to retire in America. So from every move you put, you are retiring in America. So that if you decide to go back to your country, you have the money to survive in America. You have $2 million. Then if you go there, you are surviving. You are $1 million, you can be able to survive. 2, 3 million, whatever, something like that. But if you say, I'm going to retire there, so I don't need to worry too much about retirement here, like to save, to invest, and all those kind of things. The moment you retire 30 years to go, you go back to your country. How many times have you gone to your country in those 30 years? 4 to 5 times. Because the average person, at least maybe 5 years will go once. The average. Yes, there are people who go many times, but the lifestyle here, one time in 5 years. Yeah. How many friends, truly friends you have? After 5 years, you were just on WhatsApp, hi, on your group. You don't have friends anymore. Those people over there, they go to the funeral together. They go to the match together. They go to the celebration together. They are friends. You are not a friend with them. They are just like colleagues, but here and there you chat. You have lost a certain type of connection. Number 2, you go there. You are starting bringing you a topic. Oh, don't bring you American thing here. You already disconnect on certain things.
Yeah.
Number 3, you are going there. When you get sick, is cash. Yes, you say, I have money. But what are the services? Why the rich people and leaders, when they get sick, they go to other countries to get higher treatment. So are you able to be coming back to the US or go to Europe or to the higher advanced? Because the older we become, the more prone we are into so many catastrophes and so many diseases. So I have no problem someone to go to retire in Africa, but prepare yourself to retire in America. Have this wealth, go to retire there. It's okay, but don't say I'm not doing anything here, because the amount will have to be 100,000.
Yeah.
200,000. If you go there, you forget something. People in Africa who live there, they have more wealth than us. If their house is their real house. I have a house in America, but it's a mortgage. Their house, they don't pay anybody. They have garden, they have farms, they have animals like 200, 500,000 of chicken. So they already established themselves. So their retirement can be happier than you with so much stress. So you have to make sure that if I'm going to retire there, you need to prepare to retire here, have enough everything. You go there, yes, it's okay. But don't go there because you have failed to survive American lifestyle. Because you'll be upset, because you feel as I'm a failure. I'm still like to stay there, but only financial takes me there. Go there as if you really want to go there with establishing here, I'm going there. So that is my opinion. Like, I don't care where you want to retire.
Right.
To prepare yourself. Prepare. God is there. Even if it's not there, you have nothing to lose.
True.
Because if you say I'm preparing to retire in Africa, you are put yourself like, okay, if I have 100,000 is enough. It's not enough for retirement life. No.
Yeah.
So it's not like we don't love our country. We love our country so much, but we want when you go there, not to die with stress.
Yeah. And maybe Ernest, just to add to what you're saying, maybe I don't know if we're gonna have time, but maybe we're gonna have to find a day, and maybe we can touch a little bit also on retirement itself. I feel like the lack of understanding what retirement is and challenges at retirement is where also maybe another gap is. So that's why a lot of people get surprised, because you could work like for 30, 40 years, and then when it's time for you to retire, realize, oops, I'm, I cannot retire. I remember very well, this was like in 2019 or 2020, somewhere there.
Yeah.
And I was in Illinois sitting at a nurse's station. Okay. I used to work as a travel nurse back then. And I was listening to this surgeon who came to the nurse's station talking to a nurse that was in this hospital for 30 something years from the Philippines. Okay. And he was like, oh my God, you've been here for what, 35 years? And the nurse said, yeah. And then she was asking the doctor, you've been here almost the same time I've been here. And then he was like, yeah, it's time to retire. And then she said, yep, I got 2 more years. And then the doctor was like, uh, last year you said you're retiring this year, but how come now you're saying you have 2 more years? I said, well, I just realized that my pension will not match my lifestyle. Okay. And I'm sitting here as a young nurse, just sitting there listening. And then she said, what about you, doctor? He said, yeah, maybe I have 5 more years. Check this out. This is a registered nurse and a surgeon. They've been here in this hospital for more than 30, almost 35 years. Neither of them is sure about their retirement. Oh my God, Ernest,
Yeah.
that is the day I was like, okay, I need to think about this because I was like, I'm not even like 5 years, right? Oh, 6 years in nursing. And this one been there 35 years. And this one, the nurse that everybody thought she was gonna retire that year, said
Yeah.
she needs 2 more years. I'm like, if it never worked, so I was thinking in my head, if it never worked for the 35 years, what would 2 years make a difference? Understanding the
Exactly. Yeah.
concept of inflation and taxes at retirement, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And then the surgeon is like, oh, I'll have 5 more years. Five, 5 more years? He was almost 70. I was, whoo, yeah. So I didn't say anything, and I was like, okay. And then the same exact ER, there was another day I was working, Ernest, and there was this lady who's a nurse, and she was so excited about her new house. She had a house that was worth almost 700K. So I asked her, I said, how did you buy that fancy house? I said, well, I actually took equity from my previous home. Okay. I said, oh, okay. So with your previous home, how did you buy your first home? You know what she told me?
Yeah.
She said, I was a little lucky because when my grandma died, all the grandkids got 200K. All the grandkids. I said, how many grandkids? He said, like, oh, about seven, eight of us. Hey, I was wondering how much money did your grandma have to give you as a grandchild 200K, just like that. And she bought a house cash, let it build equity, use that to buy a new house. Do you see these two scenarios? The same emergency room. I'm working as a nurse. I'm here because we talk a lot, right? So I'm
Yeah.
here analyzing. I'm like, this surgeon has been there for 35 years. Is not even thinking about retiring because she's like, oh, he's like, I need at least 5 more years, and he's almost 70. And you have a Filipino nurse who was brought here, right, through this agency, has been in that hospital for almost the same time, 35 years. She assumes, she's not sure, she assumes she needs 2 more years to retire because when she wanted to retire that year, she realized her pension does not match her lifestyle. Come on. Ernest, failure to plan is planning to fail.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing I want for us to touch base is about the issue of being sick and death and preparing for those kind of things.
Mm,
Uh, in Africa, majority of us, we don't have life insurance, we don't have health insurance. We believe God is everything, is protecting us. It's good. Yes, God is protecting us. We understand that.
mm,
But the reality is, If God is protecting us, we'll live many years,
Mm,
80 years, 90 years, 100 years. Uh, that is the question I usually have myself. Like, how do these people in elderly home survive? That kind of things.
mm,
But also, like immigrant, we come here. Let's say, as I mentioned, like you have two jobs. Let's say the first job, which you're working at the supermarket. How
mm,
many hours are you walking around? In shift of 8, 9 hours, you are sitting down for 2 hours, maybe every
mm,
single day, 5 days. That's good. I mean, it's a lot.
mhm,
Another job, you go to the warehouse, you do this one.
mm,
Yes, we get a lot of money. Or sometimes we can get even a good job. Let's say you sit on the desk with air conditioning, doesn't matter. But how long can we be able working 60, 70, 75 hours per week? We cannot keep up that lifestyle. In the end, there are diseases. There are
mm,
diseases we cannot control. We can get maybe cancer sometimes. We cannot control that. Sometimes we have reached a point we have certain disability, kind of that.
mm,
Uh, so how do we need to prepare ourselves instead of waiting to depend on uh, sending the money on Cash App, having GoFundMe? When I die, take me to Africa.
mm,
Why didn't you plan yourself? I understand, but do we need to plan these kind of things? Do I need to plan when I get old, when I get sick?
mm,
What if I have terminal illness? Like, yes, nowadays, even in Africa, someone get cancer, you have terminal illness, but
mhm,
how are you preparing yourself that you are told you have 9 months to live?
mhm,
And I'm starting preparing. Yes, there is spiritual part, but I want to talk about the financial part.
mhm.
Yes. Can we walk through the financial part, like these chronic diseases, these terminal illness, these type of critical illness, these type of like death? How do we prepare ourselves?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's a very good question. I think Ernest, number one, I think for majority as middle class, um, there is a problem. Once again, the problem starts in our thinking and our understanding on how life cycle is and how everything transpires. There is something called depth perception that I learned, and that is one thing we lack. Depth perception. We have that depth perception issue, meaning we always think it's always going to be the next person, not us, in anything. Because we don't see ourselves, so it's very easy for us to feel like, oh, to build wealth, oh, that's for certain type of people, that's maybe for
Yeah,
Jewish or for the Chinese, as an example, right? But not for a person like me. We've been conditioned to even believe that, oh, anything that has to be good and excellent has to be for the next person, not you know and then automatically, even if it's something bad, and you're seeing it on somebody else, like, oh, maybe they were wrong, maybe they could have been more careful, oh, they're paralyzed, they're in an accident, they should have driven a little bit slower. But you're forgetting that when you're on the road, you could be on the right, but somebody else was being careless, hits you, and then you become in trouble. Now, lack of understanding of the life cycle, depth perception issue, and the understanding of consequences that, hey, you are a human being. From the day you are born, you're a risky being. From the day you are born. If I look at the lifestyle just here in America as an example, the fact that you're just alive is another risky day.
yeah,
From the air pollution, the type of food we eat, all these GMOs and injected foods. So it's just a matter of time for your body to react. It's just a matter of time. So you know what wealthy people do, Ernest?
yeah,
Because they know they have no total control over you could be the most healthiest person, Ernest, working out every single day. All of a sudden, oops, you have high blood pressure. What? It was genetic. You cannot control genes, you see. So depth perception issue, lack of understanding, once again, of how the human cycle work, and just everything else when it comes to the risk that we carry is a problem. So how do we prepare ourselves? Because the truth is, God forbid you have a heart attack, you have stroke, you have cancer. Now, stroke, it could be anything. Maybe you just slid down on a toy, and fell, or it was snowing and you slid down and fell. Now you hit your head and you had some kind of bleeding on the head. Guess what? You could stroke out. Heart attack, stroke, cancer. You give an example, right? Do we really know the causes of cancer? Most of them are colorational. You know, we just colorate one. Where I had an aunt who accidentally, too bad she passed away, right, from lung cancer, but she never smoked a day in her life. Okay, I have an uncle who was suffering from kidney issues, right? But guess what? They never even had any issue when it comes to alcohol and stuff like that. So you have a heart attack, stroke, cancer. What if you cannot pee for, like, let's say 2 days? You go to the hospital, you have all this swelling, and they say, "Oops, sorry, looks like your kidneys have failed. Now you have to be on dialysis." Wow. I don't think people understand what dialysis means. So you are going to be on a routine where they're pulling your blood at least 3 times a week. You need to sacrifice an average of 5 hours a day. Who is going to hire you? And you have to call off 5 hours a day, almost every other day. So most of these people are not working. You have ALS, so you find yourself, you're in a situation where you need a major organ transplant. I'm talking about lung transplant, kidney transplant, heart transplant. We see and we hear things like that happening to other people, but we never think, oh my gosh, if one day I wake up and I find myself blind, Ernest, I cannot see. Let me tell you, it happened to one of my colleagues. He was sitting at the nurse's station, falling asleep. They didn't wake him up. They didn't. Because this guy, he was an LPN. At that time, I used to work in Arkansas as an
Yeah.
LPN. Let me tell you, I've been done it all. So he was sleeping and they didn't wake him up. So later, they realized he's oversleeping and saying, patients need medicine. Yo, wake up. Because he used to be the type of person that he didn't want to be bothered, right? So
Yeah.
finally, like, yo, you have been sleeping for a very long time. He could not wake up. Sleeping at the nurse's station. This nurse was sleeping, Ernest. So finally, somebody was like, yo, I think this guy has fainted or something. He was just like this at the desk. Like you're sitting on the chair and he's just laying like that. Yeah. They had to call an ambulance, 911. The ambulance came, they checked his sugar. Guess what? His blood sugar level was 1,000.
Uh-uh.
Yeah. So for those people who understand blood sugar levels in the body, you want it between 70 and maybe 90 something, not more than like 120 something, but you want it like maybe around there to be considered like normal. His was like what, 10 times? I mean, no, 100 times actually. That was like, yeah, 10 times. Because it was like exactly 1,000 and something.
Wow,
So he
that's
was actually in a diabetic coma. That's what it means. But he didn't know he was diabetic. He was a bigger guy, but he didn't know he was diabetic. He has never had diabetes. He has never even had traits of diabetes. He didn't even notice that. You see what I mean? Fast forward, let me tell you, this guy was admitted at the hospital for more than 3 months, had to be intubated, had to learn how to walk, how to take care of himself. He had bed sores, he had everything. It's interesting because these are things that we take for granted because one day you're at work, the next minute you are learning how to walk, you're learning how to eat. You are maybe peeing and pooping on yourself because now you need to learn how to control your bladder. It's like pretty much you're like going back to like a kid level to learn how to do these things that adults are doing. You gotta know how to condition your bladder once again and stuff like that. So this is an adult though. But let me tell you the sad part. This person used to own a lot of properties. I'm talking about houses in the southern area. I'm talking about Arkansas, Alabama, that area. So, long story short, due to that situation, because he was in a ventilator for a very long time, we're talking about these areas, breathing, whatever. I think part of his brain was also a little bit disturbed because I think it lacked oxygen. So when he woke up and he was learning all these things, yes, he had recovered now full, like after what, nine, almost more, I think total full recovery took him like 3 years. Okay. But all this time it was not working. So when he was ready to go, guess what? He couldn't even maintain his nursing license because of memory issues. Like he was behaving a little bit different. These things traumatize people. If you're on a
Yeah.
ventilator, imagine for more than 3 months, you're not going to be normal. You're
Exactly.
not going to. Talking about the oxygen flow, talking about so many things, your body changes. But also, he was a little bit upset because financially he was doing so good. And it just so happened one day the sugar level was so high. And now he wakes up after 3 months of being super, super sick and not being able to take care of themselves while he's going through recovery. He realizes, oh, I'm here in a skilled nursing facility, but my houses are gone. I'm here in a skilled nursing facility. Where's my fancy car? It's gone. So I remember at that time, this person was like so upset and was saying, oh, I can't believe my own family would give away everything I have, and sell my stuff. Da, da, da. And I used to be so emotional too. I used to be like, how can people be so cruel? That's what I used to say. How
Yeah.
can people be so cruel? They sold his stuff. Yeah, they thought I was gonna die. I was like, oh my God, they thought he was gonna die. It's ignorance. That's how the medical system is. So if people understand how the financial medical system, the finance system and the medical system in America work, they'll understand how to even protect themselves on an event they fall sick. You see what I mean? Not only that, Ernest, what if people are paralyzed? People don't think about that. You're in a bad
Yeah.
accident, now you're paralyzed. That's critical illness. You see, you have Alzheimer's. You have like heart issues, let's say coronary angioplasty and stuff like that. What about AIDS, HIV? What are the chances, Ernest, people can catch HIV? You
It's
went
a
and
lot. Yeah.
you went and cheat on your spouse. There.
Yeah.
People are not thinking about this. Oh, using sharp objects. You see? So, as human beings, we need to be very smart. We need to understand that we have no total control of life. We can control our finances, though. We can control how we pay taxes. We can control if we are to be sick today, what's going to happen to our money. That we can control. But as far as your body, you know, there are certain things we just cannot control. You cannot control death. You cannot control illness. You cannot control old age. So with chronic illness, just so you know, Ernest, sometimes it's not even because and this is coming from a medical background, right? And that's why I think I enjoy this because coming from a medical background and then now doing finance, these two are just talking to each other because
Yeah.
now that I understand, you know what, Ernest, when you talk about chronic illness, you don't have to just be super sick to lead. Now, of course, you could have a stroke and then it could lead to chronic illness where you cannot take care of yourself. But also sometimes you just have to be old. Have you seen those old people who cannot like feed themselves?
Yeah.
For themselves, dress themselves. Yeah. So it's something similar to that. So lack of understanding of how finances work, that's where the problem is. Now, my question to everybody listening, okay, is what is your plan B? Number one, are you protected? Meaning what? Do you have your financial portfolio or planning structured in a way that everything is protected? And then those are things that we do. That's why I'm in this industry. That's why we are licensed, right? We are licensed so we can help our fellow middle class understand how to protect the assets. Because all these wealthy people, do you think they don't fall sick? Do you think wealthy people don't die, Ernest? They
They
die.
done. Yeah.
They die. They get sick. You think they don't get paralyzed? What about Steve? Steve Jobs was sick for a very long time. So is his family broke now?
No.
Is Apple gone? You
No.
see,
It's still
small
there.
Africa. Hey, is Apple Store and everything gone now? We don't have iPhones anymore.
Still there.
And then when you have a little African store, Jamaican patties, whatever suya, the moment the owner is gone, like
Everything's
dead,
good.
3 years later, this shop is gone because we have no legacy. We don't understand how to do successor plans. There is so much gap, even in our businesses, Ernest. And that is the reason why in financial services, we make sure middle class understand the system and also how to protect their legacy from business owners until even hired professionals. Because there's certain things you cannot control and there's certain things you can control. You see that? And then yeah, so these are things that I feel like, that's number one. And also, what about the income though? What about the income? Don't worry too much about, yes, you want to worry about how we're going to protect it, whatever you worked hard for. But what
Yeah.
about the cash flow? Most of these things, Ernest, when they happen, we're still living paycheck to paycheck. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
If you think you're going to retire at 65, If you think you're gonna retire at 70, but you got sick at 50, you still have 20 more years to work. What is replacing your income then? You need your income to put that money in that basic account that you're putting. You need the same money to take care of your kids and to finish paying your mortgage that you've been paying for the last 19 years. If you didn't finish paying your mortgage, what's going to happen to your house?
They're
They
talking
take it.
about. Yeah.
What about the car? You know, we call nowadays there's this thing on social media. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called rich auntie, rich uncle. I think
Yeah.
they need to edit that. They say rich auntie on credit, rich uncle on credit. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Most of us we call each other rich auntie, rich uncle. Everything we have almost is on credit. So something happens to you, rich auntie, rich uncle. You find yourself in a situation you cannot take care of yourself, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck. And when I say paycheck to paycheck, by the way, Ernest, do you know even there are a lot of business owners that still live paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
Because
A
paycheck
lot.
to paycheck just means exchanging your time for money. That's what it is. You see what I mean? So I could own a car dealership and still be paycheck to paycheck. I can own a home health agency and still be paycheck to paycheck, aka self-employed. So what is my plan B? Do I have an account to replace my lifestyle? These are accounts that we open for people. Before, they used to think, oh, it's just for wealthy people. No, 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 no. Middle class can also qualify. Even people who say, oh, I'm not a US citizen yet, there are companies that can qualify immigrants. They will look at your cash flow. They will, as long as you're in good standing, you're not like in felony, you're not a bad person, you have your job, you're paying your taxes. Hey, there are options. There are options. People need to stop dying in silence, Ernest. So this is not, so that's why I call myself, I'm in a financial ministry. So my team and I, and I'm glad also, you mentioned that you're licensed. These are things that, you do, I do, and these are things that people need to understand how to go to the next level. Everybody falls sick one day. Everybody's
Exactly.
gonna die. Wealthy people too. How come they pass wealth to the next generation, but ours is buried? There's one thing we're so good at as middle class: to pass $0 to the next person. As a matter
To
of fact,
put. Yeah.
we pass negative. We're
Yeah.
so good at that. And then we complain and say other people are lucky. It's not about lucky. We start sometimes even we sometimes we go so deeper, we even start thinking of the history. Oh, because we were colonized. And this, I'm not saying those things did not contribute. I'm not saying they did not contribute, but I'm saying today we're in a different era. Information is there. Oh, by the way, somebody told me the other day, Veronica, but I think it's a lack of information. I said, it's not a lack of information. It's just ignorance to even create time to get the information. Information is there, Ernest. But I like give an example of myself. We hold programs every single week to educate people about finances. But how many people create time? And you're saying there's lack of information. But you create time to go pick that extra check that you cannot
Yeah.
even pick on an event you fall sick. You create time to walk to the bank and get a mortgage that you can barely afford.
Or just to watch Netflix.
Yeah. So life is about choices, and we truly have to have hard conversations, understanding how we can transform our mindset into abundance, right? So that we are doing things that are good for us and the next generation. So income protection is very important. On an event, God forbid you fall sick, or he passed away, you want to make sure, yes. Now, of course, you asked me also a question on life insurance. So let me just clarify that a little bit, right? So there's a misunderstanding here a little bit when it comes to life insurance, right? So of
Yeah.
course, life insurance is created for, as I said, it's life insurance. You want to like replace your income in event something happens to you. But it's not just death. So of course that is the number one reason why they initially created life insurance. When God forbid you pass away, you want to have a lump sum that can go to your family to replace your income for a period of time, blah blah blah. Take care of your expenses that you created, right? Just like how you signed that mortgage. When you check out, you gotta make sure your kids are not relocating from a mortgage back to an apartment
Exactly.
projects. Right?
Yeah.
So but then there's more to that, because people forget that if you are not there, you're not bringing income, but also when you fall sick, you're not bringing income. So the gap is still there. So that is why there are certain types of life insurance that you can cash out some money while you're still alive. Now, not all life insurance is the same. That's another problem. People think, oh, all life insurance is the same. That's not true. Life insurance, there are different kinds out there, and each one is created for a different purpose. There's no bad insurance, there's no good insurance, but you need to understand how it works. So people say, oh, my insurance is bad. No, no, no. You just didn't understand how it works.
Yeah.
There's
There
insurance
are
for poor people.
choices. You choose which one
Yeah,
you want.
yeah,
What
yeah,
are your needs? But if you do not
exactly.
know, you take the one which you technically
Yeah,
they are not solving your needs.
it was bad for you. You
Yeah.
see? So they have all these insurance units. So the insurance for poor people, insurance for middle class, insurance for wealthy people. You get to select as long as you qualify. And you have insurance for informed people and insurance for uninformed people, because that's how America is. America is just for two people, Ernest: informed and uninformed. If you have the information, you excel. You don't have information, you stay where you're at. That's why we cannot be comfortable. We have to always seek knowledge, and we also have to understand how the system works. So, yeah, so with insurance, on a nutshell, right, that's a whole broad topic. But people need to understand that everybody needs insurance, period. We all need life insurance. Just like how before you leave the dealership, the bank is like, hey, Ernest, you didn't pay for this car cash. I'm financing it, right? Okay, come on, get insurance. Because the bank is not even playing with you. They know you cannot even afford this car. So you're not going to drive out of the dealership. If anything
Exactly.
happens to you, they have to cover the loss. Oh, no, no, no. You are going to insure that car. So the bank, why is bank making you get insurance? People think bank is getting insurance for you to protect yourself. It's to protect them.
Yeah.
They are the ones giving you the money. So if anything happens to that car, they already know, oh my gosh, Ernest and Veronica are here driving Ferraris, and they did not pay cash for these Ferraris. So guess what? Clearly, if anything happens right now to this Ferrari, they're going to incur the loss twice. So they don't want that. They're going to say, hey, Ernest and Veronica, please, full coverage,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So banks are protecting themselves. But guess what? We are not. We don't protect our income that we barely have. We don't protect our assets. We don't protect anything. Insurance is just about protection. Lack of, and then, an average middle class don't know protection. You reach the wealthy people, that's the language. They leverage other people's money. It's called insurance. You see? Yeah. So that's a broad topic, Ernest, but it's more than just death. It's about life insurance is more like when you're still alive. So many benefits. So many. So many. Yeah.
Because if you ask majority of Americans, how many people have phone insurance?
Mm,
Majority have.
true.
The value of iPhone, you put insurance, but you don't want to put insurance to protect your life. It's up to you.
Yep. No, 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 no. People need to be smart, right?
Yeah.
Smart
So
people, they insure their life because they know they're going to be alive. It's not only about death insurance or burial insurance. Talk about life insurance, right? So life
yeah.
is about life.
Let
It's
me
about
give you
when.
a quick example.
Mhm,
Recently, Trump has two cases in New York. One of
mm,
the case was supposed to be pay in order to appeal, you have to pay 400 million, whatever.
mm,
He said, I said, I have cash, I'm not paying. He said, this is too much because appeal process is supposed to be easier. So he
mm,
went to the Court of Appeal. They say, no, he can pay just 175 million to
mm,
appeal. And he said, and at the same time, the same week that everything is gone, his Truth Social went on public. So he got 4 billion extra. And he said, I have all this cash. I'm not paying my cash. Insurance paid 175 million. Not Trump. He said, no, I'm not using my cash. My cash I'm not using for campaign. Because campaign. So I want to like people understand these kind of things, like we are just taking for granted, like, oh, these are politicians, he's broke. No, these rich people are not broke. They
no,
don't want to use their money for things
nope.
which they don't benefit from.
Yep.
Yeah, so those are the things. And to add one more thing on here, at the beginning you mentioned about the education part.
Mm,
So the problem we are facing is, whether it's in America, whether it's Europe, whether it's Africa, the education is not created to make you know things about you can beat the government.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about understanding more about the finance, meaning you are understanding more about the taxing.
Mm.
Why does the government allow you to know about tax-free programs
Mm-hmm.
where obviously for them the survivors depend on the tax?
Mm-hmm.
So where do they put this information? They put
Mm-hmm.
them on the books,
Mm-hmm.
not the books which have these professors, because the professor, they're teaching theories. They are not teaching the actual what is the real life. Even the credit score is not taught in high school, which
Mm-hmm.
yes. So I know you recommend people to be able to read some of the books, and I'll show some here, and you can just talk about them just a little bit. Uh, these are some of the books. For instance, you usually recommend people to read the Life Retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I want people to make sure that they are starting like buying books.
Mm-hmm.
This is self-education you need to have. This is called life insurance, wealthy money, life insurance. How the wealthy use the life insurance is tax-free, personal bank. There is psychology of money.
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many things people should be able to read. The cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we needed to understand more, like read things beyond what you are told at school. You engineer, you need to know this one. You are finance, you need to know this kind of. You are just whatever major you have, you are CNA, whatever it is. These are the things we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the reason why we are continuing to be ignorant, not
Mm-hmm.
reading these type of books, not taking the time even to watch? There are some accounts or like some materials, they're accessible. Go to the library, you can borrow these books from the library, some of these ones. Why
Yeah.
do you think like a special majority of low income people, we don't want to get this type of secret?
Mm. I think it's two things, as you have said, ignorance, right? I think ignorance, is it plays a major role. For me, ignorance is like what? Lack of knowledge or you ignore, and also comfort, you know. Ernest, most of us we don't like being uncomfortable, you know. As long as my bills are paid, I have food on my table, I'm good. I don't want to think outside this. Everything's gonna be okay. God is gonna provide.
Yeah,
Okay. So the highest level of ignorance is being comfortable also, For majority of us as middle class, I think we tend to be too comfortable, especially let's say you have a good career, you have your car on credit, your house on credit, and all these things. So now you feel like, okay, this is all I need. This is all I need. I can survive as long as I can. So as long as you can afford minimal payment, you think you can afford your lifestyle. Most of us cannot even afford our lifestyle, but we think we can, you know. So I think it's just a mixture of being so ignorant and being comfortable. And as I said, ignorance comes from either you're ignoring or it could just come from a very, very innocent space where you just don't know. Okay. So I think that is the problem there. Now, of course, reading books helps a lot, right? But also sometimes the challenge we have is to understand what books to read,
yeah,
because whatever you read gives you different results. I see a lot of financial books out there. Like I remember on our last session, I think about a couple weeks ago, I had a person who came to me and said, Dr. Veronica, I was so inspired by your session. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking, how can I be like you? How can I even get my own license? So of course, I'm kind of like working with this person now. But there's one other thing that they said, and they said, I just went on Amazon and I bought a book. It's called Finance for Dummies. I said, oh, finance for dummies.
are you a dummy?
And I said, oh,
Yeah,
okay. So of course, I mean, I gave her credit because at least she was trying to look for
taking
something.
action right away. Yeah,
Yeah, but then there is a difference in the kind of books you read. Let me give you an example. Okay. Some books are more fiction, some books are more real. you
yeah,
know some books are more analytical. It depends on what type of your number one, depends on your understanding and what is your study style. Are you a left brain type of person or right brain type of person? It makes a difference on how you're learning, but at the same time you have also a difference in information. Let me give you an example, Ernest. When I went to nursing school, all right, there are certain classes that I took that allowed me to be an LPN. So somebody who graduates from nursing school, they're going to read a nursing book and they're going to graduate and get a nursing degree. But guess what? If your program was to be an LPN, you will never learn how to hang blood in a human being. That's not part of the curriculum, you see? But if you decide and say, you know what? I am going to go to school and to be an RN, they will teach you how you can hang blood and how you can hand certain kind of medications to patients that LPNs cannot. It's also a nursing book. But you know what in RN school they won't teach you? How to prescribe medication. How do antibiotics work? How do painkillers work? What is the off use of certain medications? What are the interactions? They will not teach you that. Because why? You're an RN, you're not a nurse practitioner. When you go to nurse practitioner schools, they will not teach you how to open a human body and create and be a surgeon. They'll teach you whatever the course is. You can be a psychiatric nurse and strictly deal with mental health, and you will never know how the medical part of blood sugar and blood pressure and mixing all these chemicals and you will never know that part of the physical part. You're going to be strictly health. So finance is the same way. You have finance books that are just perfect to make you stay middle class. And
Yeah,
then you have finance books that are just perfect for you to build wealth. And you have
exactly.
finance books that are perfect for you to be poor. Example, just have good credit, don't worry about everything else. It takes time. Just pay your debt, don't worry about anything else. You'll invest later. I'm just going to do debt management, that's it. Perfect for you to remain poor and middle class. And then you have those finance books that is going to teach you how you can leverage debt to build wealth. You see the difference? So, understanding money also has a gap. I can have a
Exactly.
finance book today to build wealth. I'm talking about debt here as an example. Some books are going to say, oh, just take on, even if it takes you 10 years, just pay off your debt, pay off your debt, pay everything, you invest later. And then you have another book that's going to teach you how to acquire debt to build wealth.
Two
You
different
see?
perspective. Yeah.
So that is why understanding certain things. So for me, because I'm licensed, right? And to protect my licensure, I cannot just advertise books right away, but I like when I sit with a person and depending on their thinking and where their mindset is, then of course I can suggest certain books, based on my because different authors write differently. And let's say I meet somebody and let's say they're a CPA. A CPA is already coming from an area of money. Okay. So CPAs, there's certain books that can help them as a CPA to understand how to build wealth because not all CPAs know how to build wealth.
Yeah.
CPA, and that's another misunderstanding. People think, oh, a CPA can build me wealth. Not all CPAs can build wealth. As a matter of fact, a CPA certification is just for what? To help you with your taxes,
Taxes,
filing taxes,
accounting. Yeah.
auditing, bookkeeping, stuff like that. It has nothing to do with wealth building. So the other certifications that CPAs still need to have so they can help their clients build wealth. So not every CPA does that, including financial advisors. Not every financial advisor is to build you wealth. There's financial advisor for wealthy people and financial advisor for middle class. Do you think, Ernest, when you go to the bank today, you're going to get the same financial advice as Trump?
No, I will stay on the line and they will give me the minimum, whatever it's around
You
there.
don't even get the same bank teller as a business owner if you are a W-2. Even a bank teller
What
is different.
the CEO, they go to Buffett at his home to save him. They're not, Buffett doesn't go. Warren Buffett doesn't go to the
No,
bank. The bank
they
comes
come
to
to
him.
you. Financial professionals will come to you. It's about building wealth. Middle class will line up at the bank. But wealth, you're not going to be taught at the bank. That's why you only have 20 minutes. You're going to open an account for you want it or not, you're out. They don't even sit to advise you nothing. Whatever they call advice, hey, different kind of advice. What are they advising you exactly, Ernest, when you go there? Build wealth to get out of, I mean, what exactly? Or
Yeah.
to
So
or to just acquire more debt
to
that
acquire
you
more
cannot
debt,
pay.
they get you. That's how it is.
Yeah, so we need to understand. So reading books, 100%. Once again, I support reading books. I love reading books. I have read a lot of books. And people say, "Oh, Veronica, you like to study." Let me tell you, it's not about studying. I don't like being ignorant. I don't like not knowing. I like to know so that each time you make decisions, you make informed decisions. Most of us are making decisions out of ignorance, and it is sad and scary. But if you make decisions coming from an informed perspective, because you're informed and you're an expert in that subject, you make stronger decisions compared to a person who makes decisions based on guesswork.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to go like to two more concepts, and then we can answer some people's questions if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Uh, one of the things which is very controversial, even like I got to this question like within this week, someone
Yeah.
asked me, is the Tanzanian family asked
Mm,
me because their relative is in US, is a US citizen, is dead. They want to find the procedures to take the person to Africa to be buried there. So overall, the question is about death. Uh, how the death is processed in terms of the financial aspect in Africa is a little bit different from the death in America.
mm,
When the death is processed in Africa, is more communal, social issues. Financial usually is very later. Government doesn't involve much. It's just you go to the small court down the road. It's just a family, blah blah blah. You finish. But here is a little bit different.
yeah.
Can you explain the concept of death and what we this the famous probate court? How does that work so that people cannot think about death like, okay, I don't need to do anything. I'll just wait here. When I'm dead, I'm dead. How does
Mhm.
that work in
Yeah.
America so that we can be able to leverage the resources which are available and the ways you can think beyond the death for the loved ones? Because you say, take me there, but your kids, they're here, they're born here, they have nothing, and you are dead. How do you make sure that they are going to be able to survive?
Wow. Yeah, so it's that's a very good question. So I think when it comes to estate planning, right? Number one, I think first of all, most of us don't understand what an estate means, you know. And
There's
second,
nothing more powerful
Yes,
and yes, we also
than you making your thing happen.
sorry. Continue.
all right. Yeah. So I think number one, most of us don't maybe understand what an estate is, or if we have one or not. And second, when it comes to estate planning, is also, as you said, understanding the process. You know, because let me tell you, we are living a happy life. Nobody want to think about death, right? Nobody think we don't want to think because we're like, man, death is bad because we don't know what's going to happen after that. Death is one of those processes that, oh, the person was talking to you one day and then now you can never hear their voice anymore. So you're like, no, I don't want to think about it, right? But unfortunately, something we have to think about it because it can come when we least expect it. You know, death is very emotional, is very touchy. You know, Ernest, this is one of those times that this question is coming at a very challenging time because just a couple weeks ago, I lost one of my favorite human beings that have contributed a lot to who I am today. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So, when a person passes away, okay, you have to first understand when a person is alive, they're doing so much. Okay, they're working, they're acquiring wealth, they're acquiring debt, they're doing asset and liabilities, whatever. So they're doing so much. Okay, they're having babies, you know, they're taking care of them. They're having, you know, so many things. It's called life. Okay, and then one day you went to sleep and you didn't wake up. It's just you went to sleep, didn't wake up. Your babies are still there, your debt is still there. Your house is still there. Your car is still there. Right? It's just you didn't wake up. So you went to sleep, you're going bye-bye. Okay. So
Yes.
people that you're leaving behind, let me tell you, people assume that, oh, you can just replace a being just like that. You cannot, because they were doing so much. You know, right now we take each other for granted because we are so comfortable. Let's just say the problem we have is comfortable in the death position issue that we always think like, oh, things are just gonna always be the same. So on an event like a person passes away, that's where the biggest gap is for Africa, or I would say as an example, like this is Tanzania, as you've explained, the process is a little bit different. Here in the United States, there's something called probate. So America has a system to take care of all these things, right? When a person is born, there's a system for that. When a person dies, there's a system for that as well. So here, there's one thing called probate that I think people need to kind of like go and kind of learn about it. I'm not a lawyer, you know, just a disclaimer there, so I don't want to talk more about this. But all you need to know is there's a process called probate that this is a state process, right? So the state has to make sure the person that has passed away okay, is cleared financially as well. Because when you are alive, you are contributing to the economy, right? You had these finance things, right? They were looking at how you're borrowing money and paying back debt and doing this and doing that. So when you check out, right, in America, you have something called a social security number, right? So of course they have to put that in, and then they have to assess what you have going on. So let's say you died and you have some kind of debt. That debt has to be paid. So who's going to pay that debt, right? But also maybe you have extra money somewhere in your savings or something like that. So depending on the state, it's a state process. Every state has their own process. So sometimes what they usually do, I would say most times, is they like to take hold of everything that you have, maybe block it for some time or freeze it for some time, and they take the accounts of your estate, right? So pretty much what they do is they appoint first, if you have any will, they get an executor, post bond against your assets and stuff like that. And then they what they do is they locate everything that you have. If you have a house, you have a car, you have all this, pretty much you the person who dies assets, right? And then they determine the value of that person upon death. Once they know, oh, you have all this money, you have all this, they use your money to pay your debt and taxes, pretty much. So they notify all these creditors. Now, have you ever wondered why, all these credit card companies, they say, hey, you've qualified $50,000 and you use all this money. Who pays for that debt when you pass away? Okay. Have you ever wondered, you have a house, right? Who pays for that house when you die? And that's why if you cannot afford it, it goes to foreclosure, goes back to the bank. You see, your car, maybe bought it on credit, same thing. So these are things that we don't think about. If something was to happen to you, let's say you pass away, what happens to everything you've acquired, all this liability? Somebody has to pay. So a house, a car, those are secure debt, so they can go back and take them. But what about unsecured debt? What about debt on a credit card or medical bills or your student loan and stuff like that? Somebody has to pay for it. And that is the reason why they have to hold all your assets, right? They take a portion of that, they take care of all this. So I don't know how the math goes, but that's what they do. Now, here's a challenge though, because after you pay your debt, you have to pay taxes. An average middle class, when they die, let's say you died today, you didn't pay your taxes for this year. I don't even know if you filed for last year. So somebody has to pay for these taxes. But another problem that we have is you are dead, you're 6 feet under. So how are you going to go to court to defend yourself? Right now, you can go to tax court and say, "Oh, I paid it," or whatever. It was business expense. You can argue, you know. But you're 6 feet under. You're buried. How are you going to argue with the state?
No,
This
you
is you
can't.
against the state. So that is where also that's why they say the biggest tax in America is the estate tax. The government controls whatever they want. So before you know, let me tell you, if we don't understand probate and how the American system work in general, sometimes that's another way that we could also lose money. But if you understand how to, let's say, protect your assets, at the same time, you're doing what you have to do and you're paying your taxes on time or whatever, at least, either not everything has to go through probate. Does that make sense? So there are legal places that you can put, there are legal things you can do in place. Example, let's say you have a trust, okay? You have a trust, chances are what? You could avoid some of your assets going through probate. That way you can pass that money or whatever you're working hard for to the next generation, because they still need that to continue that legacy. You see, but due to lack of information and lack of knowledge, that's why we see a person could be a medical doctor, could be a surgeon, could be an engineer. We all end up in probate, and then we lose everything we've worked hard for. So understanding estate planning is actually a whole broader topic for a different day. But also, I'm glad you asked that question. But it's true, most of us don't understand probate. So you can work so hard. That's why I said dead on arrival, because you could think like, oh, I got it all made, and then all of a sudden you lose everything. Oh yeah. And then yeah, so this was just like some example, right? So some people know this story. I'm glad you projected that. You just reminded me, Bob Lee, right? So for those people who didn't know, so this was just one of the stories that somebody was telling me the other day, and they said, "Oh, did you know that Bob Lee they had to start a GoFundMe because his assets were held in probate?" I don't know if I think it has like a story back down there, yeah.
Yes.
So he talked about this. So for those people who don't know Bob Lee, right? So he's this amazing guy. Unfortunately, he passed away. He used to be, I think, a founder of Cash App, right? Something like that. Yeah, and when he passed away last year, they started his brother started a GoFundMe. That's what the story says, right? So if they started a GoFundMe, doesn't mean because he's broke, it's not doesn't mean like he's so and he says here to pay for his legal fees and to take care of his children. But it doesn't mean he's broke. This guy was a multimillionaire. So what was the problem? Is because his assets were held in probate. You see? So, but what if most of his assets were sitting maybe in a trust or something like that? Then we could have avoided probate. That's why I said having a lot of money, being highly educated does not necessarily mean you're financially literate. So financial literacy is something that I think should be highly encouraged, for all of us, as middle class, whether you've gone to all the school in the world and you're super highly educated, or you think you have a lot of money and you're a business owner and you're busy. That's what this word busy. I don't like the word busy. I don't like it because this is what also buries us, Ernest. So small things like this,
Yeah.
his kids didn't have to worry about this GoFundMe thing. Only if this guy maybe he didn't know, maybe he didn't have the information, or maybe he was too busy to assess it. We don't know. All we know is he did an amazing job. He was an entrepreneur, and that's all we know. So yeah, once again, that is something we need to have a discussion on, maybe on a different day. Hopefully, maybe I don't know, maybe get a probate lawyer or something.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
one time somebody said, "Oh, I can just get a probate lawyer." It's nice to get a probate lawyer before you go to probate. That's it. That's all.
I might talk. There is one lady. She studied with
Yeah.
Marie, my wife. Is a
Mm,
family friend. They studied together in California, and we both live in Missouri. She lives like 30 minutes from here, but she works for probate lawyers in California. She's very smart in math. So lawyers, they're not good in math. So she's in charge. So those lawyers, there are 3 lawyers in California. They deal with the millionaires. So
mm,
she's in charge of doing all the math, like every single thing the government is supposed to. She's in charge of that. So
mm,
maybe I'll find one day I can ask her to uh, just to bring her to give more discussion about what happens on those math kind of that and those kind of things. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think these are things that people just need to be aware. And that's what I was saying. I think it's nice to deal with a probate lawyer before you go to probate, not
Yeah.
when you're in probate, because that time is too late. These lawyers, man, they make a lot of money, right?
Oh,
Try to defend, assets now. I don't know how much of that really you're gonna get because
and it takes years. It's not just one day thing.
it's a long process. That's very true.
Yeah.
I was looking at the case for Kobe Bryant. I don't even think if they're done
It's
yet.
not resolved yet. No,
It's not
yet.
resolved yet. I know he was definitely one of those people that protected his assets, right? But for those people who did not, oh my gosh, a lot of people lose a lot of money. So yeah, so these are things that are very important to discuss when it comes to personal finance. Money, understanding money, Ernest, is something that we all have to take very serious because it is never going to be taught in school. Money is taught at home or through programs like what we do have, like community programs and stuff like that. But yeah, so people shouldn't work so hard and die in silence. Should work
Exactly. Yeah.
hard and protect our assets, you know? Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much.
you're
So I
welcome.
wanted to bring one last thing, then we can answer more questions. People, you can put your questions here and we are going to answer them.
Hmm.
So this is the last part before we go to the questions. Is the concept one of the kind of like not the pure solution, but that is something we assume people will need to go down the road? Is this concept of the understanding the concept of employee, business owner, self-employed, the quadrant, and becoming investor? Can
Hmm.
you just in a high level, we don't need to go into too much details,
Hmm.
but just like for people to understand these kind of the security, building wealth, independence, freedom, how does that work for everyone, but especially for us as immigrant? We come here instead of focusing on working, being employed. This is where I get more money. Like, can you give a little bit, people can understand this quadrant uh and down the road on being wealth creation and being independent and having this type of freedom?
Yes, exactly. So the first time I learned about the cash flow quadrant was from Robert Kiyosaki, one of those greatest authors, and he explained that very well. Okay, he said
It's
there are
nice book.
four. Yeah, that one. Yes, exactly. So it's funny because the first book he wrote was Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Yeah.
and then he came up with that one too. But yeah, so with the cash flow quadrant, pretty much the easier way of explaining this is there are four ways of making money or producing income. There's no right or wrong. You just need to know how they work. So you can either be employed, you know, or you can be self-employed, or you can own a business, or you can be an investor, right? So on the left side of the quadrant is either you're employed or self-employed. On the right side of the quadrant is either you're a business owner or an investor. So the easier way of explaining this is the use of time. That's how I look at it. So on the left side of the quadrant, these are people who exchange their time for money. That means they have to actively be involved in that particular workspace to make money. Those are the employed people, which we all know about employment, right? So you go to a job and say, hey, I'll give you 40 hours of my life every single week, and you are going to pay me every hour of that 40 hours, maybe $20. You see, but what if you don't show up? What if you don't show up to work? Do you make money? No, you don't. What if you show up 36 hours? Then they pay you 36 hours. You see, what if you don't show up at all because you were sick? Then you don't make money at all. You see, that's what it means. Now, some people also don't like to be put on schedule because, entrepreneurs are very smart. They want to make sure that you are going to do the production they want you to do. So they'll put you on schedule. Come here at 9 a.m., leave at 5, do this, do that, because they want to make sure certain production is being made. You see? Now, if you don't like to be on schedule, that is when some people decide to be self-employed. So they decide to start their own small business and they become, that's the bottom left quadrant, right? Self-employed. But that is when you work for yourself. So you own the business, right? That small business. But guess what? You still have to exchange your time for money, because if you are not, let's say you're selling food, let's say you're selling donuts, okay? If you don't create time to make the donuts and go out there and sell these donuts yourself, then most likely, guess what? You're not making money. Or if you decide and say, you know what, I'm just going to be a truck driver. I'm going to buy my truck and employ myself to drive my truck. Yes, it'll help you a lot when it comes to taxes, a little bit. But guess what? If you're not driving truck that day, Ernest, are you making money?
No, you
No.
don't.
I have a friend of mine who owns a home health agency, right? So he was telling me that it was a day that 3 of the CNAs called off because it was a vacation. They just decided, hey, and they're not showing up. But he has 3 patients to take care of. How are you going to take care of 3 people and you have nobody to take care of them? And you're one person. So that is when, guess what? You have to go in. So these are things that people need to understand, that if you have a business that you have to exchange your time for money, it's still called active income. That means if anything happens to you, the business cannot run itself. If you have to presently be there to run a business to generate cash flow, that is considered active income. Okay. And that is what majority of us do. 95% of Americans, 95% of people in the world, we do that. And guess what? It's not going to build you wealth, because when you talk about employment is just for job security, just enough for you to pay your bills and go back to work. And also, and I tell people, if you get fired tomorrow, is there any security? No. Then what about self-employed? Self-employed people, yes, they have a little bit of financial independence when it comes to scheduling, but they're still not financially free, because if they are not operating at their area of business, there's no money. Now, on the right side of the quadrant, where you have the B and the I, that's when you're either a business owner or an investor. Now, this part is where they build passive income. Now, what does passive income mean? Passive income is when you have leverage. What are you leveraging? You're leveraging a system. You have either a business with a big network, or you have a business that you hired a lot of people. So you're leveraging their time, so you can make extra cash flow and have time to build other businesses. So my question is, when you are talking about so what's the difference between the B business with the B on the right side and then the small business on the left side? Once again, the small business requires you. The big business on the right side does not require you to always be there. A good example is like Warren Buffett. When I learned that Warren Buffett has Dairy Queen and Geico and all these other businesses, or let's say the owner of Starbucks, you can go to any Starbucks shop out there. You're never going to find the owner of Starbucks selling you coffee. You won't go to any Dairy Queen in the world and Warren Buffett is selling you ice cream. But guess what? They've leveraged where they say, hey, you can own a part of my business called a franchise. And guess what? I'm going to own a part of your business. So for every coffee you sell, or for every burger or ice cream you sell, I'm going to have a portion of that business. Okay. Because it's my brand. It's my business. So that is a business owner. So even if Warren Buffett decides to go to sleep and never work at their shop, Dairy Queen, guess what? They're always going to make money. Even if you decide to be so angry and close your Dairy Queen, or they close all the Dairy Queen instead of Missouri, let me tell you, the guy cannot go broke, because you have a system everywhere. What about, I was looking at the way Starbucks is, man, that Starbucks has a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Ernest, they can close all the Starbucks in Missouri if they want to. There's Starbucks in Geneva.
At every airport.
There's Starbucks in every airport almost in the world. You see? So too much cash flow. So that is so the owner of Starbucks is a true business owner. That's what we mean by business ownership. He doesn't have to be there selling you coffee. If you're talking about our small stores, just go to African suya spot. The owner is the one cashing out suya for you, frying the suya, is the DJ, is everything, right? That's not what I'm talking about. So if the owner is not there, there's no music that day. If the owner's not there, nobody's there to marinate the suya. And we call that business ownership. No, that's small business. That is not going to build you wealth. If you understand the big business of the big B, it's a different structure. So when we sit with people, we get to explain to them how you build the business of the big B so that you can own a big system. Now, investor, that is when you put your money to make money for you. You got to put it somewhere, okay? Now, it doesn't matter if you're going to put it, let's say, in index funds, you know, or you're going to put it, let's say, you know, some people know how to invest in real estate. So investment is more of you are leveraging your money to make you more money. So you don't have to be there physically. So you could be busy playing golf somewhere and your money is compounding. I was telling you about the family banking strategy where there's certain accounts where instead of you sitting your money at the bank making you 0%, maybe I'll show you my portfolio one day, you're compounding at 10%, 20% every single month on average, tax free. And then somebody say, oh, I have a money market at 3%. You're not beating inflation. Inflation is 4%. You see? So
Yeah.
that is when you understand the word leverage, that's the most famous word for what wealthy people do. They leverage. They like to leverage. That's what wealthy people do. So that is where you can build wealth and then become financially free. But if we only depend on security and financial independence on the left side, oh no. So to encourage people, right? The best way is right now while you're having financial security or a little bit of independence, you need to think outside the box. You need to start building wealth and also what? Building something that's going to make you what? Financially free. But here's the gap though. To build passive income requires time. You're going to have to put in time. I don't know, it could be maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? It took a while for Amazon to kick in, right? Almost 20 years. When you look at Uber, you know, maybe 12 years, Facebook, you know, it takes time. So most of us, we want popcorn success or microwave success. You know, there's nothing like microwave money. The faster it comes, the faster it goes. But if you understand the system and you're patient enough to build, you're gonna build a lot of wealth. So you can microwave anything else, you cannot microwave your success. We need to understand that hey, we need to follow the system, understand how the tax system works. Don't overpay, but make sure you're paying your taxes, you're doing this, you're doing that. But yeah, so that's how it works. You know, that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we don't need to wait just to do one thing. We have to find where we'll be able. You are
Yeah.
going for the vacation instead of having vacation. You are just struggling
Hey,
like,
speaking of
okay,
vacation, do you know where I'm at, Ernest? I'm calling
where?
you from Florida today. I'm in this
Wow,
nice. I'm just gonna tell you, okay? I'll
where?
give you the
In,
actual location after off the call. But just
oh,
so you know, I'm in one of the most expensive resorts out here in Florida. Me and my entire business team, right? All my business leaders are here, and we are here on a business retreat. Okay, so all the couples are here, it's almost like 20 something of us, and this is a business trip on a fancy resort. So guess what? Tax exempt. But what if I was
yeah,
just going to come here with my family and spend the exact amount of money and I'm a W 2?
personal expense.
Personal expense. So you don't get a tax deduction. So that's another example. But guess what? Am I losing anything? No, I can do business anywhere, you know? So in this world and era, people need to wake up and get to understand, hey, listen, with technology and everything that we have going on, we need to think outside the box. So you can live a very good life, create cash flow for your family and everything else. And still, yeah. So yeah. So as an example, it's me right now. I'm talking to you when I traveled again. We just traveled a few weeks ago and I'm traveling again. So how about so me 2 years ago, I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Me 6 years ago, it was not the same.
you
You
could
see?
be double shifting now.
Oh, double shift, sweetheart, double shift, and I have to beg to even go on a vacation. I was talking to this nurse practitioner the other day. I said, "You have the money to travel, but you don't have the time. You don't have freedom of time. You have
Yeah,
to ask for to be off work. You have to ask when to take care of your kid, when to do this, when to do that. So there's three types of freedom, right? Let me give you that as a bonus. You have freedom of time, freedom of location, and also freedom of money. Most of us don't have all three. We either have one or the other. It's either you have money, you don't have time, or you have time, you don't have money. You see?
Majority of time, have no money.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, or you don't have freedom of location. You can have time, a little bit of time, money, but you
Yeah,
cannot just jump and just be anywhere because you're just sitting there and your boss has to tell you when you can travel, when you cannot travel. You see?
exactly.
Yeah. So owning a business is something that we all have to do. So yeah, while we're comfortable, at your job, make yourself a little bit uncomfortable and start building a business. So that 5, 6, 7, 10 years from today, you can be like, oh wow, I have something else that I can leverage. Because as you said, today we can work 40 hours, can work 60 hours, 80 hours, but 20 years from today, your body may not
Yeah,
be able to do that. Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Before we continue, I want to remind the people, if they go to the ebmscholars.com/finance, over there you'll be able to access the form.
Yeah.
But this is the on this form, when you fill, you'll get a free financial consultation. Because I know there are some questions here. We'll be going to the questions soon. For instance, someone asked a question here specifically, which we cannot, it will be difficult to answer right away before discussing your situation. Let me go and put that question, and I will explain why we created this financial consultation. Which, one second, let me go and so for instance, someone is asking a specific question. Do you recommend term or whole life insurance? So we cannot answer that particular question before analyzing your situation. Your need, each person has different need. So that's why it will be better. You can fill the form, and I prefer the people who are in US or Canada, because we have license for that, will be able to give specifics of that particular area. So you will choose which aspect of the consultation, or which with the financial goal or education you need is financial goal, then you will be able to do that. And you get if you need to upload anything, is not a must, but you can be able to fill through the ebmscholars.com/finance. So that will be the area where you'll be able to do that. So go to the ebmscholars/finance. You can be able to fill the form, and you can have free consultation. Okay, so let me check some few questions here. We have, first of all, the comments from Robert. Says the session is so powerful and transformative. So thank you so much. Someone is also giving good appreciation of the quadrant book. Okay, there is a question from Samuel. I would appreciate to get an example of how someone can leverage debts to gain wealth. Thanks.
Awesome. So that is a very, very powerful question. That's a wealth building question. So there are so many ways where you can leverage debt, okay, to build wealth. So let me give you an example, okay? Very simple example. So let's assume I own my own family bank. Okay. So that's why I said it's a topic for a different day so you can understand. But when we meet one-on-one, I'll be more than happy to show you. So let's say I own a family bank and I have some money in there. As an example, let's say I have $20,000. Okay, just sitting in there. But I don't want to use my own $20,000. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my $20,000 in there and then borrow against it. So now it's debt, right? Borrow against it to go maybe, you know, have an asset or run a business or start a business and stuff like that. So while I'm doing that, guess what? I've acquired debt, but it's good debt, right? That's gonna make me more money. But I don't use my own money because my money is sitting there growing at 20%, 30% interest rate compounding. But I'm using somebody else's money that was leveraged to me to go build another cash flow. So most of us, when we acquire debt, let's say to buy a house. That's what I mean by building your wealth. So I borrowed this money, especially let's say at a lower interest rate, but it's giving me way more interest. So let's say I borrowed it at 2%, as an example, to pay back at 2%. But then This money is going to give me, let's say, 10, 20%. So when you look at the difference there, that means I've made at least 18%. I'm just leveraging. Get the point? But then the difference there is, let's say, so that is a good way. But what if I was to get debt to go buy a house? A lot of people assume that, oh, if I get a mortgage, automatically I build wealth. That's not true. Because if you get a mortgage and this house is not making you any money, but rather you're just paying, you are not really making money in. So that is not the smartest way of leveraging debt, because at the end of the day, you're just spending. So let's say you borrowed 300K and this money is compounding against you. This, when you're sitting in a house not making you money, people think, oh, it's going to build your equity. Equity is very subjective. So if you study about equity, you'll understand it's not always guaranteed that you're going to get a certain amount of equity reaching a certain point. Sometimes houses lose value too. So you just need to understand how the market operates. It fluctuates, you see. So I borrowed 300K from the bank, and then I'm assuming equity is going to build up. But also the bank puts me on an interest rate where I'm going to end up paying less than 700K in 15 years. So that means I borrowed 300 and I'm giving away 700. That means that's an extra 400,000 that I've given away. Meanwhile, I could have done the opposite. So if I took it, let's say, for investment purposes, I've borrowed the 300K, but I'm putting in a portfolio that's, let's say the bank gave it to me at 2%, but I'm leveraging it and I'm compounding it with somewhere else, right? Maybe it's making me an average of 10, 20%. That means I'm making an extra 18. Now I'm building money. Remember, the concept of asset and liability is what? Money in is asset, money out is liability. So how you can leverage debt to build you more wealth? You need to understand the debt that you're acquiring. Why are you acquiring that debt? Oh, just to buy a car. Okay, fine. You're gonna buy a fancy car. What? To just sit on it and people look at it? That's a liability. But if you're buying that car because you are doing, let's say, Uber Green as an example to make you money, now that could be a good debt. It could make you money. So anything to do with leveraging debt, you want to make sure the debt you're getting, you're putting it in a space that's making you way more money compared to the interest that you have to pay back. So we always do the opposite. We end up paying way more compared to what we acquire at the end. But if you know how to leverage debt that way, then it's going to make you more money. You have to make sure that the debt that you're getting, is it going to make me money, or am I going to end up losing money? Yeah. So that's the easiest way to explain.
Okay. Another question, specifically for you. Question for Dr. V, Dr. Vero. Can you clarify a bit more about life insurance? Did you mean like with life insurance, if you have a mortgage paid out with the insurance, can increase something in case something happens? Or I understood you wrong?
Okay, so I'm not sure how well your question is written, but when you talk about life insurance, so let me just help you out here a little bit. So mortgage insurance, life insurance, they operate totally different. That's, as I said, the best way to understand that. When we see to 101, I'll explain to you even better. Even with mortgage, so you need to understand is when it comes to life insurance, it's a broad topic. Okay, life insurance not because of your mortgage. No. You can use life insurance for so many things. Okay, your mortgage could be just one of it. Your mortgage insurance is just to cover your mortgage. That's it. But the question is, after you've paid off your mortgage, then what's next? You see, by the way, mortgage insurance not for you. Once again, it's for the bank. The bank knows you cannot pay for that house cash. They're giving you a mortgage. All of a sudden, something happens to you, or something happens to the house, you know, they know you cannot afford that house already. That's why they're giving you a mortgage. So they're protecting themselves by having you get a mortgage insurance so that they guarantee that they're always going to get paid. So it's protect the bank, not you. So number one is the understanding of insurance. But life insurance is life insurance. It's not to pay for things. It's to help you. It's to pay for you, to protect you. You see? So when we sit down, that's when you get to understand the different kinds of life insurance, depending on your situation. That's when you get to select which one is best for you based on your situation. But life insurance is for you, mortgage insurance for the bank.
Yes. Okay. Some of the other questions I will respond to separately. They are different. This one, Robert, he sent me the email, I believe. He got a partial scholarship, and I have to respond like for the PhD studies, kind of that.
Mm.
One of the things I wanted to advise, there are so many people nowadays, there are companies in America nowadays, they are offering of what student loan to international. Usually, most of the companies, they don't offer to international unless others, someone in the US is going to co-sign, which you don't get any person who going to co-sign a student loan for that case. So the bigger question is student loan. So that will be another consultation, because there are so many things like, why should you take a student loan and you are international, you get 50,000, how much are you going to pay back? So there are another concept of student loan, especially for international. So that will be able to advise. So if you are international, it would be better to find scholarships, or you find your own money if possible, before you even think about scholarships. And if the scholarship has to be small, the loan, it has to be very, very small. Maybe they have already given everything, whatever. Yeah. So we'll discuss that in a separate kind of things. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if there is any other question. Okay. Someone just says loves the discussion. Mota used to be, he's Tanzanian. He used to be a Fulbrighter one time. I think it was in Michigan.
Mm.
Okay, so I don't know if there are other cool. There is this question. The other in other terms, life insurance is to replace your income once you die, so that your spouse or kids who want to struggle financial while going through the tough loss of a family member. Do you want to go through, not in detail?
No, that is not correct.
Yeah, so that's why
So
I want.
life
Yeah,
insurance is not just to replace your income when you die.
yeah.
No.
So
You can use life insurance in your life. Do you know that companies own life insurance, including banks? Banks own life insurance. Will banks die? Are they human beings? Do they have children? Do banks have cousins? Do banks have spouses? No. So that is the misunderstanding. People think life insurance is when you die. But that's what I say it's a topic for a different day. We can talk more so I can expound more on the knowledge of life insurance. But it's not only about death, it's about life. Life insurance is not death insurance. Life insurance is not burial insurance. Life
yeah,
insurance is life insurance. You can have it for corporations, you can have it for banks, you can also have it at a personal level. So there's so many uses for life insurance. Your life insurance is not about you have to die for other people to benefit. No, no, no. There's so many uses for life insurance and so many benefits for life insurance. So it's not only about death. Nope. No.
okay. Again, I've been saying, in case you live in the US or Canada, there is offer to get a free financial consultation, where you can have your specific case and will be able to answer specific. You go to the EBM Scholars/finance, you'll be able to reach us there. You'll fill a form and we'll be able to reach to you. Okay, so let me see. There are a few questions here. So he's still in Michigan. Muta will get in touch with you. I know you're still in Michigan. Make sure you fill the form, but I'll also you can email me. I'll get you a number, and then we can be able to get in touch. My email usually is the same, ebm@ebmscholars.com. I'll be able to reach at you. You can email me there, but I'll be able to call you after this one. Email me, then I'll call you. Okay, so people, they enjoyed the discussion. Okay, so while we are about to finish this one, I want to give you the chance to give you the final advice to people in general, as far as financial understanding, financial education, immigrants, missteps. It doesn't matter whether you have been here day one or you have been here 20 years. Maybe you didn't know these kind of things. It's not too late. Better later than never. So what advice is the final do you give to people when it comes to the issue of American dream, decoding the dream, understanding of the financial system, and the retirement planning in general?
Yeah, so I think one thing is never think you're too late and never think you're too early. That is one thing I'm going to tell people. Never, when it comes to money, retirement planning, and everything like that, never think you're too late or never think you're too early. Because I always say the best time to plan for your retirement is when you're first born or your finances. But since maybe we didn't get a privilege to have our parents, or that we, that took care of us, planned that for us, then the second best time is what? Is today. Yeah, it's today. When you were born, somebody should have planned for your retirement a long time ago because they know, oh, you're going to go to school, you're going to graduate one day, you're going to have your family. And guess what? You don't have to be 60 and 50 to start planning your retirement. It has to be from the first day you're born because that's part of human cycle. But also, never think you're too late. If you never had that privilege to start planning early, then guess what? Today is the perfect time to start planning. There are so many ways where you can play catch up, and make sure you're making up for the lost time. But never think you're too early, you're too late to plan for your retirement. That's my simple advice.
Okay. There is one question from Halima. I didn't see the question. This is a green card holder, won the DV lottery. I know this person. Say, for the newcomer in the US, what is the best advice to start with when it comes to the financing? Thank you for the amazing discussion.
Welcome, Halima, to the US. Yes, the best advice when it comes to finance, come sit with us so you can learn the system, and then you
I
know
have
where
her
you want.
phone number, so we'll make an appointment with her.
That's the best advice. Let's sit down, let's show you how the entire system works. And then you're like, you know what? This way I'm going to start, because everybody's in a different space. Even if you're the first comer here, you could be a student, you could be coming with a family, some people are single. So finance is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
So
For her, will be more different because she came here with green card from day one.
Mhm.
And she finished PhD again. So it's a different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a person who's working, has a totally different options compared to a person who's not working. A person with a green card without versus a person with no green card have two different options. Now, one benefit you have is if you have a green card, that means you have more options. So when we get to sit down, we get to show you all the options that you have, right? And then you get to select what's the best for you based on your understanding. But the key thing is to also understand, not just to select, but we teach you, how different things affect, how different, let's say, accounts affected differently, how the system is set up and stuff like that. So that's one big benefit that you get. You get the educational side of things as well.
Yeah. I usually tell people from day one, you arrive at the airport, think you are going to retire in America. Think you are going to die in America. Prepare everything is in America. Meaning that if you say I'm going to retire in Africa, you already prepared at higher level. Just like you are training, like if you're going to play for Real Madrid. If you don't go to Real Madrid, you go to Aston Villa, you'll be at the peak still. But if you train as if you're going to play for smaller club in Africa, the moment you are put in Real Madrid, you cannot survive. So prepare at the big league. That's the biggest thing. And the best time is, Dr. V has said, is now. So I'll send you the link. You can fill and you can create a meeting with us, and then we'll be able to go through in that particular discussion, which will be able to help you on that. Thank you so much, Alima. Also, Freddie said, okay, not that one. Freddie said he is in Indiana. Okay, so Freddie, will you please also make sure that you fill the form? You were asking Muta is in, so you see people, they're all Tanzanians, they're different places. So make sure that we can connect. Yeah. Okay. Make sure that you go to fill the form, ebmscholars.com/finance. Fill the form there if you are in US or Canada, and then we'll be able to go through with you in that particular way. On my end, this kind of discussion we are working on this, we are talking with this one is higher level. It's not too detailed. Remember, if you are in US or Canada, get a free appointment get into detail so that you can be able to succeed in one way or another. And I'm working on my book, probably by the end of the year, if possible. It will be there. There's similar things we are talking about, which are the Decoding American Dream, the Immigrant Missteps in navigating America's financial and retirement systems. These are the mistakes we are doing. We don't want to see the immigrants are doing the same mistakes. I would like to thank you so much, Dr. V, for taking your time to be here. The same this webinar I will also post on my website. I will post on YouTube. You'll be able to get it there. If you come later to the same link, you can watch on demand. It will be possible through that way. So I would like to appreciate each and everyone. While we are looking for what is called the American Dream, you have to decode it. Otherwise, you will end up every single day says America is racist. It's not racist. The system is clear. Failure to understand the system, you'll be upset every single day that this is a racist system. It's not. Racism is there, we agree, but doesn't mean that if you you go and know how to put your money, where to invest, they will say no. You don't go to do that way. Yeah, if you die, you know how to avoid the probate. Those are the same systems. We saw the example of a millionaire didn't know the system. Still a millionaire, you're doing the GoFundMe. So it doesn't matter whether you are rich or poor. Financial education is the key for your success.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, each and everyone. Make sure you forward the same link to other people. They get education.
Awesome.